Ever wondered how to make these sweets that look just like the ones you'd buy at the store? Well, you're about to find out. But fair warning, once you make them, don't leave them unattended. They'll vanish in seconds.
Start with 120 grams of sugar, about 3.5 ounces, and pour it into your pot. Next, add 3 full tablespoons of cocoa powder. The better the cocoa, the richer the flavor will be. Then pour in 250 milliliters of milk, which is about 8.5 fluid ounces. As the ingredients come together, begin mixing slowly. You'll notice the cocoa dissolving, the sugar melting into the milk, and the whole mixture turning into a smooth chocolate base. Take your time here. This step sets the foundation for everything that comes after. Now add a teaspoon of vanilla sugar. Keep stirring as the pot gently comes up to a boil. Don't rush this step. Let the heat slowly melt everything together while you keep the bottom from catching. At the same time, prepare 120 grams of peanuts, around 4 ounces. Place them in a dry pan and toast over medium heat. Stir them often so they color evenly. After a few minutes, they'll turn golden brown and you'll smell that deep, nutty fragrance filling your kitchen. Once the peanuts are roasted, transfer them onto a cutting board. Take a sharp knife and chop them into smaller chunks. Not too fine. You still want a bit of crunch in every bite. Now bring them over to the pot and add the peanuts straight into the hot chocolate mixture. Stir everything together until the nuts are well coated. As you mix, the sauce will start to thicken slightly, becoming glossy and rich. That's the perfect moment to take it off the stove so it doesn't overcook. While the mixture is still hot, drop in 150 grams of butter. That's just over 5 ounces. As the butter hits the warmth, it begins to melt slowly, blending into the chocolate. Keep stirring gently until it disappears completely and the mixture turns smooth and glossy. Now take another large bowl and add in 500 grams of cookies, about 18 ounces. Break them up with your hands into random chunks. Don't worry about being exact here. Some bigger, some smaller. That's what gives the final bites great texture. Once the cookies are crumbled, pour the warm chocolate mixture right over the top. The heat will soften the pieces slightly as you stir. Take your time folding everything together, turning the bowl until every single cookie piece is coated in that rich, buttery chocolate. Once the mixture is ready, cover the bowl tightly with cling film and let it sit until it cools down completely. This step is important because if it's still warm, the mixture will be too soft and sticky to shape properly. After it is cooled, remove the cover and take out small portions with a spoon or your hands. Roll each portion gently between your palms until it forms into a neat ball. The size is entirely up to you. Smaller ones make bite-sized treats, while bigger ones feel more indulgent. I'm going with a medium size here, just about this big, which gives a nice balance between the two. Continue until you've shaped the whole mixture into smooth, round balls. Place the shaped balls into the freezer for about 5 minutes. This quick chill firms them up, making them easier to handle and keeping their shape while we prepare the coating. While they rest, let's work on the chocolate. Measure out 160 grams, that's about 5.5 ounces, and place it on your cutting board. Chop it into smaller pieces. The finer you chop, the quicker and more evenly it will melt. Transfer the chocolate to a heat-proof bowl and melt it gently, either over a hot water bath or in the microwave in short intervals, stirring each time until smooth. Once melted, add 20 milliliters of oil, roughly 2/3 of an ounce, and mix it in thoroughly. This little addition keeps the chocolate thin enough for dipping and gives the finished coating a shiny, glossy look once it sets. Now stir 50 grams of chopped peanuts, about 1 3/4 ounces, into the melted chocolate. Mix slowly until every piece is coated and the nuts are evenly spread through the mixture. This gives the coating extra crunch and the delicious nutty flavor. Next, take the chilled balls out of the freezer. Drop them into the bowl one at a time,
rolling each ball gently with a spoon or fork until it's completely covered in the glossy chocolate. Lift it out carefully, letting the extra chocolate drip back into the bowl. Then place it onto a tray lined with parchment paper. Continue dipping the rest, coating them all the same way. Once finished, leave the balls to sit until the chocolate hardens and sets into a crisp shell. If you'd like to speed things up, simply return the tray to the freezer for a few minutes.
And now our chocolate peanut balls are ready to serve.
Just look at them, each one coated in a glossy shell, sprinkled with peanuts, and perfectly round. They look so impressive, yet they were so simple to make. In just a moment, we'll cut one open so you can see the inside. The crunchy cookies, the creamy chocolate, and those roasted peanuts all packed together. Compared to store-bought sweets, these are on another level. Fresher, richer. They're quick to prepare, fun to shape, and so satisfying to bite into. Put a plate of these on the table, and I promise, they'll be gone before you know it.
Curious how to make this rich, comforting baked pasta? It begins with a sauce that has shaped European cooking for centuries: bechamel. Known as one of the French mother sauces, it forms the base for countless dishes, from lasagna to moussaka. The process starts simply, with olive oil and a spoonful of butter melted together in a pan. Into this goes flour, whisked in to form what's called a roux, a smooth paste that thickens liquids. Cooking the roux for a short time removes the raw flour taste, leaving a nutty aroma. A pinch of nutmeg is traditional, giving gentle warmth, while salt brings balance. Warm milk is then added slowly, whisk by whisk, transforming the paste into a creamy white sauce. Constant stirring ensures no lumps form, and as the sauce thickens, you can see the glossy texture that makes bechamel so versatile. While this base is left to simmer, attention turns to the foundation of the filling. An onion is finely diced and softened in olive oil until it turns translucent. This careful sautéing draws out its natural sugars, creating gentle sweetness. Garlic cloves are minced and added, releasing their fragrance in the heat. The garlic is crushed, then finely minced with a chef's knife. Cutting it this way releases allicin, the compound responsible for garlic's sharp aroma and flavor. The smaller the cut, the more intensely it perfumes the dish.
Next come vegetables, carrot and eggplant, both grated by hand. Grating may seem unusual, but it has a purpose. It lets the vegetables blend into the sauce without dominating it, adding sweetness and body while almost melting into the background.
The carrot is hand-shredded into fine strands, releasing sweetness that balances the savory base. It's stirred into the onions and garlic, where its sugars begin to caramelize. Next comes the eggplant, grated into thin shreds. Unlike cubes, shredding makes it melt almost seamlessly into the sauce, adding body and a subtle smokiness as it fries. Together, the vegetables create a flavorful foundation before the meat is added. The grated eggplant melts down quickly in the heat, almost disappearing into the sauce. Its spongy texture soaks up oil and spices, carrying flavor through the entire mixture while adding a subtle smokiness. Only then is minced beef added, browning evenly in the pan until crumbly. Diced tomato and a spoon of tomato paste join in, deepening the flavor and giving the sauce its color.
The tomato is chopped into small cubes and stirred into the pan. As it cooks, it releases natural juices and acidity, which brighten the sauce and balance the richness of the meat and vegetables. The heat breaks down the flesh, letting it blend smoothly into the base. Finally, it's seasoned with salt, pepper, basil, and paprika, creating layers of taste that range from herbal freshness to gentle spice. The tomato paste is stirred through and briefly fried to deepen its flavor, while the spices bloom in the heat, releasing their aroma and tinting the sauce a rich red color. A splash of water loosens everything, allowing it to simmer into a hearty meat sauce. Over the next 10 minutes, the meat continues to tenderize, while the vegetables soften and release their sweetness. This slow simmer also mellows the acidity of the tomatoes, giving the sauce a deeper, rounder flavor that coats every piece of meat and vegetable evenly. While on another stove, pasta is cooking separately until only half done. A crucial detail, because later it will finish cooking in the oven, absorbing the flavors of both sauces, rather than water alone. With both sauces ready, the pasta is drained at just the halfway point, deliberately undercooked. This method, known as par cooking, is crucial in baked pasta dishes. If the pasta were boiled to completion, it would turn soft and overdone in the oven. By stopping early, it finishes its cooking inside the casserole itself, absorbing flavor from the sauces instead of water. When stirred into the rich meat mixture, every piece becomes coated, ensuring flavor runs through the entire dish rather than just sitting on the surface. This technique is one reason baked pastas remain moist and satisfying even after reheating. Meanwhile, the bechamel has reached its ideal texture, silky, glossy, and thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. It will play two roles, binding the pasta together from within and forming the final golden crown on top. Now comes the assembly. A baking dish is brushed with oil to prevent sticking, then a first spoonful of bechamel is spread across the bottom, acting like a cushion. Over this comes a layer of pasta and meat sauce, followed by another veil of bechamel. The layers are built patiently, one after the other, until both mixtures are used. The process mirrors lasagna or moussaka, where alternating layers create harmony between creamy and savory. The very last layer is bechamel, sealing the pasta beneath a smooth, pale lid that will brown and bubble in the oven, protecting the interior from drying out while delivering that signature baked crust on top. To finish, cheese is added, about 100 grams of cheddar or any melting cheese preferred. The sharpness of cheddar contrasts beautifully with the creamy sauce, while mozzarella would bring stretch and mildness, and Parmesan a salty kick. Whatever the choice, the cheese ensures a golden crust. The dish is placed in a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 356 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. During this time, the top turns a deep golden brown, while inside, the pasta continues cooking, absorbing both bechamel and meat sauce. The vegetables that were grated into the sauce earlier lend subtle sweetness, balancing the richness of beef and dairy. Just before serving, a handful of parsley is minced, ready to scatter on top for freshness. As it's cut into portions, layers are revealed. Creamy bechamel alternating with saucy pasta, a structure that holds together yet melts on the fork. The cheese stretches as the first bite is lifted, and the parsley on top provides both color and freshness. This is the essence of comfort food. Familiar ingredients transformed into something greater than the sum of their parts. Served hot, it can stand alone as a full meal or be paired with a crisp salad. Would you try this recipe at home? This cake is unlike most you've seen, completely made without flour. Instead of relying on wheat for structure, it uses eggs, walnuts, and chocolate, showing how different ingredients can achieve the same result in a completely different way. The process begins with 6 golden egg yolks. Separating yolks from whites might look tricky, but it's really just practice. The key is to crack the shell cleanly and let gravity do most of the work, passing the yolk gently from one half to the other until the white slips away. After a few tries, your hands learn the motion, and it becomes second nature. Placed into a mixing bowl along with vanilla sugar and regular sugar. Beating them together does more than just combine. The sugar crystals physically cut into the yolks, helping them trap air and turning the mixture pale and thick. This stage is critical. The more air incorporated here, the lighter the final cake will feel. Into this base, cream is poured gradually. As it warms on the stove, the mixture begins to resemble a custard. Gentle cooking over medium heat allows proteins in the yolks to set slowly, giving body without scrambling. The key is to stir constantly. Without movement, the proteins would clump and separate, but with patience, the mixture thickens evenly into a smooth sauce. Once the custard base is ready, it's taken off the heat and poured over finely chopped dark chocolate. The residual warmth melts the chocolate gradually, which is important. Rapid heating could make it seize and turn grainy. Stirring transforms the mixture into a glossy, velvety cream, rich but perfectly balanced. At this stage, what we have is essentially a chocolate pastry cream, but without any flour or starch. To protect its texture, it's covered directly with cling film so no skin forms on the surface, then left to cool to room temperature. Later, this chocolate cream will be beaten with butter, creating the filling that holds the cake together. Indulgent, stable, and the heart of this flourless recipe. Now it's time to prepare the batter that will form the cake's layers, the part that makes this recipe so unusual and fascinating. Instead of relying on wheat flour, the structure comes entirely from egg whites and walnuts. 6 egg whites are placed into a clean bowl with just a pinch of salt to help them whip. Beaten with care, they slowly transform from transparent liquid into a cloud of white foam. As air gets trapped, the proteins in the whites stretch and form thin films, which is what gives meringue its volume and stability. Sugar is added gradually, spoonful by spoonful, until the foam turns glossy and begins to hold its shape in soft, sleek peaks. Next comes the flour substitute, walnuts. Nearly 3 full cups are finely ground until they reach the consistency of coarse flour. Walnuts carry natural oils, which means the cake layers will be richer and more aromatic than any made with plain wheat. To ensure stability, cornstarch is sifted in as well. It doesn't provide gluten the way wheat does, but it helps absorb excess moisture and keeps the walnut mixture from becoming heavy. When folded gently into the meringue, the ground walnuts transform it into a light but sturdy batter, able to hold its form on a baking sheet. To shape the layers, circles about 20 centimeters wide are traced onto parchment paper. These outlines guarantee uniformity, making sure each baked sheet will stack neatly later on. The walnut batter is spread thinly and evenly within the circles, careful not to deflate the air whipped into the egg whites. This will yield 5 even discs. They emerge as delicate, nut-based sponges. Unlike traditional cake, they are elastic and pliable rather than dry, able to bend without cracking. These layers may not contain a grain of flour, yet they provide the same structure and bite, proving that texture and flavor can be achieved with nothing more than nuts, egg whites, and technique. baked at 170 degrees Celsius for about 12 to 15 minutes. Now the focus shifts to the filling. A chocolate buttercream that will hold the entire cake together. Before that, pistachios are prepared. Briefly blanched in hot water, shocked in ice, and peeled. This extra step reveals their bright green interiors, not only improving their flavor, but also giving them a vibrant color perfect for decoration later. If pistachios aren't your favorite, the garnish can be switched up easily. Toasted almonds, hazelnuts, dried cranberries, or even fresh berries all work beautifully. The topping is flexible, letting you adapt the cake to your own taste. Meanwhile, softened butter is beaten until pale and creamy, transforming from a dense block into a smooth, airy base. Once fluffy, the cooled chocolate custard made earlier is added spoonful by spoonful. Slowly, the two elements merge, the butter giving body and structure, the custard giving a deep chocolate richness. The mixture is whipped until silky and light, creating a cream that spreads effortlessly yet sets firmly once chilled. This filling is the heart of the cake. Each bite will carry the nutty chew of walnut sponge paired with the smoothness of chocolate buttercream. More than just glue between the layers, it's what elevates the cake from simple nut meringues into a rich, elegant dessert. Once the walnut sponge layer's cooled, the parchment is carefully peeled away, revealing thin, flexible discs. If you rush and try to assemble while the sheets are still warm, the chocolate filling would melt and slide off. They don't crumble like a wheat cake would. Instead, they bend slightly in the hands thanks to the meringue structure built from whipped egg whites. Assembly begins with the base layer. A small spoonful of chocolate cream is placed directly onto the serving plate, not for taste, but as a kind of glue, keeping the first layer from shifting. The first walnut sheet goes down, pressed gently into place. Then comes a thick, glossy layer of chocolate buttercream. The cream spreads evenly, seeping lightly into the sponge while still holding its shape. A second layer is added on top, followed by another spread of cream. The rhythm continues, each layer slightly pressing into the one below, creating a tower of alternating sponge and cream. By the time the fifth layer is placed, the cake has grown into a tall, elegant stack, already impressive before decoration. This elasticity makes them easy to stack, but also unique. You can already tell this isn't an ordinary sponge. The cake is then chilled for at least an hour. This step is just as important as any ingredient. The cooling allows the buttercream to firm up, binding the layers into one solid structure. Without this pause, the cake would be too soft to cut neatly. After chilling, the decoration begins. Peeled pistachios, bright green against the dark chocolate, are sprinkled generously across the top. They add both a visual contrast and a subtle, nutty crunch. Of course, decoration can be customized. Dried fruits like cranberries, apricots, or even figs would add tartness, while candied orange peel would echo the richness of the chocolate. Some bakers even drizzle melted chocolate or dust cocoa powder for a dramatic finish. The final result is striking. 5 even layers of walnut sponge, sandwiched with chocolate cream. No flour anywhere in sight. The cake holds together firmly, yet when sliced, each piece reveals tender layers that melt on the tongue. It's dense but not heavy, rich but balanced. Proof that you don't need flour to create something decadent. More than a recipe, it feels like a small culinary experiment that worked brilliantly. Would you take the time to make this flourless masterpiece at home? Today, we're making Turkish pide, a soft golden bread boat stuffed with meat and cheese. It's comforting, delicious, and easier than you think. In a large mixing bowl, start with 120 milliliters of warm water and 240 milliliters of warm milk. The liquid should be slightly lukewarm. Add 15 grams of sugar to feed the yeast, then sprinkle in 8 grams of dry yeast. Whisk everything together until smooth and slightly frothy. Now sift in 540 grams of all-purpose flour, along with 6 grams of salt. Stir until a rough dough forms, then transfer it onto a lightly floured surface. Knead for 8 to 10 minutes, folding and pressing with the heel of your hand. Over time, the dough will change, from sticky and shaggy to smooth, elastic, and stretchy. That's how you know the gluten has developed. Once ready, place the dough into a lightly oiled bowl. Turn it once so it's coated all over, cover with cling wrap, and let it rise in a warm spot for about an hour, or until it has doubled in size. Start by heating 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a large skillet over medium heat. Once the oil is warm, add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Let it sizzle gently, stirring for about 2 minutes until it softens and releases that deep, fragrant aroma. Next, add 200 grams of finely chopped onion. Stir often and cook until the onions turn soft, glossy, and lightly golden. Now add 400 grams of minced meat. You can choose mutton for richness, beef for a hearty flavor, or chicken for a lighter version. Spread it out in the pan and let it cook for 3 to 4 minutes. As the meat cooks, the water will slowly evaporate. Keep stirring until you see the color change and the meat starts to brown slightly. Once the meat is ready, it's time for the spices. Add 1 teaspoon each. Stir well to coat the meat with all these spices. Now add 75 grams of tomato paste. Mix it in slowly, letting it melt into the mixture, turning the filling rich, thick, and glossy. Keep cooking for a couple more minutes so the flavors combine and deepen. Finally, add 3 tablespoons of freshly chopped coriander, stir it through, and switch off the heat. The filling should smell fragrant, taste well-balanced, and look beautifully colored. Set it aside and allow it to cool slightly. This makes it easier to handle when we assemble the pide. Now that the dough is risen, take the bowl and punch it down gently with your hands. This releases the built-up air and makes the dough easier to shape. Transfer it to your work surface and divide it into 6 equal portions. Shape each piece into a smooth ball by tucking the edges underneath. Place the balls on a tray, cover them lightly with a cloth, and let them rest for about 15 minutes. This short rest allows the gluten to relax, making the dough softer and easier to roll out. While the dough is resting, crack 1 egg into a small bowl and beat it lightly. We'll use this later as an egg wash to give the crust a golden shine. Now prepare the cheese filling. In a mixing bowl, add 400 grams of shredded mozzarella and 260 grams of feta cheese or cottage cheese. Sprinkle in 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, 3 tablespoons of freshly chopped coriander, and finish with a teaspoon of Aleppo pepper or chili powder for a gentle kick. Mix everything together until well combined. The mozzarella will give that stretchy melt, while the feta adds saltiness and depth. Set the cheese mixture aside. Now take 1 rested dough ball, place it on a floured surface, and roll it out slowly into a long, thin oval shape. This oval will be the base for your pide, ready to hold the filling. Take your rolled-out oval of dough and begin by spreading a generous line of the cheese mixture along both long edges. Use about 2 or 3 spoonfuls per side, just enough to create a flavorful border. Once the cheese is in place, carefully fold the sides of the dough over it, pressing gently to seal. Pinch the 2 ends together firmly so the whole piece takes on that classic boat shape with a hollow center. Now bring in the cooled meat filling. Spoon in a few heaping tablespoons. This is the mixture of minced meat with onions, garlic, spices, and tomato paste. Spread it out evenly so every bite will have the same flavor. For extra richness,
add another small handful of the cheese mixture over the meat. The mozzarella will melt and stretch beautifully, while the feta will give that tangy, salty contrast. Next, take the beaten egg we prepared earlier and brush it all over the folded edges of the dough. This will help the crust turn a deep, golden brown as it bakes. Sprinkle the edges generously with sesame seeds and nigella seeds for added flavor, aroma, and a delicate crunch. Place the pide on a tray and bake in a preheated oven at 250 degrees Celsius or about 482 Fahrenheit for 12 to 15 minutes. And here it is, freshly baked Turkish pide, straight from the oven. Just look at that beautiful golden crust. Puffed up around the edges, crisp on the outside, yet soft and airy inside. The cheese has melted into a gooey, stretchy layer, while the meat topping stays perfectly juicy, spiced, and fragrant. It looks impressive, like something you'd order at a restaurant, but it's surprisingly simple to make at home. And the best part? It tastes even better than it looks. Every time I make this, my guests rush to the table, and the pide is always the very first thing to disappear. Once you try it yourself, I promise, it'll become one of your favorite recipes too. Keep on watching. This is YouTube Cooking TV, your endless source of culinary joy. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's continue the munch together. Next up, you won't believe how easy it is to make these adorable mini lunchbox cakes. Want to make cakes that look like they came from a fancy bakery? I'll show you step by step how to make these beautiful mini lunchbox cakes. Start by cracking 3 large eggs into a mixing bowl. This will be the foundation of our light and fluffy sponge. Sprinkle in 75 grams of sugar to bring sweetness, then add a teaspoon of honey for extra depth and a rich aroma. For flavor, pour in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And don't forget, just a pinch of salt. It balances everything and keeps the taste from being flat. Whisk it quickly, then gently warm the mixture to about 40 to 45 degrees. This helps dissolve the sugar and makes it more stable later. Keep 25 grams of butter and 25 grams of milk warm over hot water. Then whisk the eggs at high speed for about 6 minutes until they turn pale, fluffy, and hold their shape. Switch to low speed for 1 more minute to break up large bubbles. Now the batter is smooth and silky. Next, take 75 grams of cake flour and sift it in gradually. Add half first, then the rest. Sifting not only keeps the batter light, but also prevents lumps from forming. Using a spatula, fold it in very gently, turning the bowl as you go. The goal here isn't speed, it's to keep all that lovely air in the mixture. Mix a spoonful of batter with the warm milk and butter, then fold it back into the main bowl. Be careful not to overmix. Now prepare your baking pan. Mine is about 40 by 25 centimeters, which is the perfect size for this recipe. Line it with parchment paper, pour in the batter, and use your spatula to spread it out evenly all the way to the corners so it bakes at the same thickness. Give the pan a gentle tap on the counter to release any hidden air bubbles. Then slide it into a preheated oven at 170 degrees Celsius and let it bake for around 20 minutes. Once the cake comes out of the oven, let it cool down completely. This part is important, so the texture sets and it doesn't tear. When it's cool, carefully peel away the baking paper from the bottom. I like to go one step further and remove the thin top skin as well, since it gives a cleaner look, but you can absolutely leave it on if you prefer a rustic finish. Cut the cake sheet into 8-centimeter circles using a cookie cutter. You'll get 9 layers, enough for 3 cakes. For the cream, start with 250 grams of cream cheese in a bowl.
Add 50 grams of sugar and beat them together slowly at first, then a little faster. Keep mixing until the grains of sugar dissolve and the cheese becomes soft, glossy, and completely smooth. Set it aside and whip 200 grams of sweetened, non-dairy topping. Combine with the cream cheese mixture until smooth. This topping stays more stable than heavy cream, making it perfect for icing and decorating.
Set aside 2/3 of the filling in the fridge to keep it cool for later decorating.
Now let's build the cakes. Place down your first sponge circle and brush it lightly with sugar syrup, 1 part sugar to 3 parts water. Spread a layer of cream evenly over the top. Add the second sponge, brush again with syrup, and repeat with another layer of cream. Finally, place the third sponge on top, give it the last brush of syrup, and finish with cream between each layer. 3 soft layers stacked neatly, held together with smooth cream. Next, take the cream filling you set aside and divide it evenly into 4 separate bowls. Each bowl will become a different color for decorating. Now, let's make pastel shades with the others. For a soft pastel blue, start with royal blue food coloring and add just a small touch of red. This takes away the harshness and gives a gentle sky blue shade. For pastel pink, begin with red and then add just the tiniest hint of blue and yellow to soften it into a warmer, lighter pink. Leave 1 part plain white. It's always useful for details and balancing the brighter tones. Finally, for pastel yellow, you only need a drop or 2 of yellow coloring, which instantly gives a cheerful, buttery shade. Stir each bowl slowly until the cream is smooth and evenly tinted. At this stage, you should have 4 beautiful bowls of cream in white, blue, pink, and yellow. Spread the cream evenly. Rotate the cake as you go, and make sure the edges look clean and neat. The goal is a sleek, uniform finish that's ready for decoration. Once the surface is smooth, switch to a piping bag fitted with Wilton tip number 5. Begin piping delicate white petals all around the cake, one by one. Work in circles, adding layers of petals until the cake takes on a soft, floral look. This simple detail gives the cake a gentle, elegant finish before we add more touches. Let's finish the first cake with a light sprinkle of decorations. Colorful, cheerful, and a perfect contrast against the white petals. Now move on to the second cake. Start with a piping bag fitted with tip 21 and pipe a row of neat swirls along the edge. Then switch to tip 16 and add smaller details in between to give texture and depth. With the surface prepared, pick up tip number 2 and carefully write the words "Thank you" across the top. Take your time so the letters are even and flowing. Finally, trace back over the same words with tip number 1, creating a raised, 3-dimensional effect that really makes the message pop. For the last cake, we'll create a pastel blue base. Spread the colored cream smoothly over the sponge, covering the top and sides until you get an even coat. Once the cake is fully covered, switch to piping tip 21 and add a decorative border around the edges. Next, take tip number 2 and write "Happy Birthday" carefully across the top. Go slowly so the letters are clear and evenly spaced. To make the writing stand out, go over it again with tip number 1 adding an outline that gives the message more depth. Finish the cake with a scattering of colorful sprinkles for a festive touch. And here they are, 3 beautiful mini lunchbox cakes, each one decorated in its own style. What's amazing is how professional they look, yet the process was simple enough to follow step by step. These little cakes are perfect for birthdays, picnics, or as thoughtful gifts. And of course, the best part is tasting them. Let's try one now. The sponge is soft and moist. The cream is smooth and rich, and every bite is full of flavor. They look gorgeous, but they taste even better. This is a recipe you'll definitely want to make again. Now we're making golden crispy zucchini fritters with a creamy dipping sauce. They're light, fluffy, and packed with flavor. Let's get started. Take 2 zucchinis, trim off the top and bottom, then use a slicer to cut them into thin, even slices. Thin slices cook quickly and keep the fritters crisp. Transfer them into a large mixing bowl. Sprinkle salt generously and toss so every piece is lightly coated. The salt pulls out excess water, which is the secret to fritters that brown beautifully instead of turning soggy. Set them aside to release their moisture. Now crack 2 fresh eggs and carefully separate them. Place only the whites into a clean, dry mixing bowl. Even a trace of yolk or grease can stop them from whipping properly, so take your time here. Add a small pinch of salt, it helps stabilize the foam, and begin whisking with a hand whisk or an electric mixer. At first, the whites look thin and bubbly, almost watery. Keep whisking and you'll see them turn into a soft froth, then a thicker cream, and finally a glossy, cloud-like foam. After a few more minutes, stiff peaks will form that stand tall on the whisk without collapsing. This takes about 5 to 7 minutes of steady beating, but it's worth the effort. While the eggs whip, check on the zucchini. You'll notice a pool of liquid at the bottom of the bowl. Take a handful of slices, squeeze them firmly between your hands to press out even more water, and transfer the drained zucchini into another clean bowl. Work slowly, handful by handful, until all the slices are squeezed dry. The drier the zucchini, the crisper the fritters will fry. Now it's time to season the zucchini. Start with a good pinch of freshly ground black pepper, which adds a little bite and sharpness. Sprinkle in paprika. Next, add herbes de Provence, a mix of dried herbs like thyme, rosemary, and oregano. Add 3 tablespoons of plain flour. Toss the slices thoroughly, making sure every piece is coated evenly with the spices. Once the zucchini is seasoned, gently fold it into the bowl of whipped egg whites. Use slow, bottom-to-top motions with your spatula, turning the bowl as you go. This careful movement keeps all of the air you worked into the egg whites. That trapped air is what makes the fritters turn out light and fluffy instead of heavy. When it's mixed, add 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. The crumbs soak up any leftover moisture and give the mixture structure so it holds together in the hot oil. Mix gently again, just until the crumbs disappear. The batter should look airy, soft, and fluffy, but strong enough to scoop with a spoon. While the oil warms in your frying pan, we'll quickly prepare a dipping sauce to go with the fritters. While the oil warms up in the frying pan, let's prepare a quick dipping sauce that takes these fritters to the next level. Start with 4 generous tablespoons of plain yogurt. This gives us a cool, refreshing base that balances the richness of fried zucchini. Into the bowl, add 1 tablespoon of cream cheese. The cream cheese blends in smoothly, giving the sauce a little extra body and a hint of tang. Now add 4 tablespoons of ketchup. It might sound simple, but ketchup brings 3 things at once: a little sweetness, some tanginess, and a lovely rosy color that makes the sauce look more appetizing. Time to season. Add a small pinch of salt and a twist of black pepper for depth. Then sprinkle in some herbes de Provence, tying the dish together. For freshness, squeeze in a little lemon juice. Just a few drops are enough to cut through the richness and brighten the whole sauce. Stir slowly and watch as everything comes together into a creamy, thick dip with a soft pink hue. Finally, fold in a spoonful of finely minced parsley. It adds a burst of freshness and a pop of green color that makes the sauce look as good as it tastes. Give it a quick taste. Add more lemon if you like it sharper, or another pinch of salt if you prefer stronger seasoning. And there it is. Creamy, tangy, herby, and perfectly balanced. The sauce is ready, and by now the oil should be hot enough to fry our fritters. Scoop small spoonfuls of the zucchini mixture and gently slide them into the hot oil. You can shape them a little with your spoon or hand so they hold together neatly. Let them settle in the pan without moving them too much at first. Fry gently over medium heat until the bottoms turn a beautiful golden brown. You'll notice the edges crisping and the aroma of the spices filling the kitchen. When the first side is ready, flip each fritter carefully with a spatula or tongs. Cook the other side until golden and crisp as well. Each fritter should have a crunchy exterior while staying light, fluffy, and tender inside. Be patient, don't overcrowd the pan. Work in batches so they have space to fry evenly and keep that wonderful crunch. Once both sides are golden, lift them from the oil and place them on a plate lined with paper towels to absorb any excess oil. Continue until all the mixture is used up. And here they are. Golden zucchini fritters paired with a creamy parsley herb dipping sauce. The outside is crisp and delicate, the inside soft and airy with herby, spiced flavor in every bite. Dip one into the sauce while it's still hot. The cool creaminess meets the warm crunch, and it's irresistible. These fritters are easy enough for a quick family dinner, yet impressive enough for guests. Serve them straight from the pan and watch them disappear. Once you've made them, they'll become a regular favorite. Ever wondered what to do with orange or tangerine peels instead of throwing them away? Today we'll turn what most people discard into something both practical and delicious. We begin with 7 to 8 tangerines. Each fruit is washed thoroughly under running water. This isn't just for cleanliness. Commercial citrus is often coated in a thin layer of wax to keep it shiny and extend shelf life, and sometimes traces of pesticides remain. A good wash is essential if you're going to use the peel. After washing, the fruit is carefully peeled, with the skin set aside in a large bowl. Around the world, citrus peel is often treated as waste, but in reality, it's one of the most aromatic and versatile parts of the fruit. In Mediterranean countries, it's candied. In Asia, dried peel is used for teas and medicine. Here, we're making a sweet preserve using tangerines. To clean them further, 5 grams of baking soda are added to the bowl, which is then filled with water. Stirred through, the soda creates a slightly alkaline solution. This step has 2 purposes. It helps dissolve the waxy outer coating, and it also reduces the bitterness in the peel, which comes from natural compounds like limonene. The peels rest in this mixture for 30 minutes. While the peels soak, attention turns to the tangerine segments themselves. Each one is separated from the thin white membrane, and, if necessary, seeds are removed. The flesh is juicy and fragrant, and later it will be blended into the peels to add natural sweetness, acidity, and body to the preserve. By the time the fruit pulp is ready, the peels will have softened in the soda bath, ready for the next step of rinsing and boiling. Already,
Something that would have gone to waste is being carefully prepared as the main ingredient of a new dish. This method is ancient and widely used in food traditions across the world. In Europe, candied citrus peel is made in much the same way, while in Asia, sugar-preserved fruits are a common way to enjoy seasonal produce year-round. Here, instead of discarding what most people consider waste, the peel is slowly being transformed into the centerpiece of a new dish. One that is sweet, fragrant, and surprisingly delicate. Once the peels are cleaned, the real transformation begins. They're placed into a large pot and covered with fresh water. The first boil lasts only 5 minutes, just enough to blanch the peels. This step is crucial. Citrus peel contains bitter compounds, and blanching helps release them into the water while also softening the peel's tough outer layer. At the same time, the heat begins to unlock essential oils from the peel, filling the kitchen with a rich citrus aroma. When the 5 minutes are up, the water is drained away, along with much of the bitterness, and the process starts again. The first, just 5 minutes long, is designed to open the peel's cell walls. During this stage, much of the volatile bitterness, mainly compounds like limonene and naringin, begins to leach out into the water. You can actually smell it. The sharp, almost medicinal aroma that rises off the steam is what's being removed. This quick blanch softens the tough outer skin just enough for further cooking without stripping away the essential oils that give citrus its fragrance. Citrus peel, something most people discard without a second thought, is turned into a preserve full of flavor, nutrition, and possibilities. It's both a lesson in reducing waste and in recognizing the hidden value of ingredients we often overlook. The peels are returned to the pot, covered with new water, and boiled for a longer period, around 20 minutes. This second boil is where the texture really changes. The fibrous peel turns pliable and tender, soft enough that it can later be blended into a smooth puree. The extended cooking also reduces the sharp edge of the flavor, leaving behind a pleasant citrus depth rather than overwhelming bitterness. After the second boil, the water is drained a final time. The softened peels are now ready for the next stage, sweetening. They're transferred into a large mixing bowl and combined with 300 grams of sugar. Sugar has more than one role here. Of course, it adds sweetness, but it also draws out the natural moisture of the peel and acts as a preservative, helping the finished spread last longer. Now the softened peels meet the sweetness of the fruit itself. The prepared tangerine pulp is added directly into the bowl with the sugared peel. At this stage, about 150 milliliters of orange juice are also poured in, not just for extra liquid, but for balance. Juice introduces acidity, which sharpens the flavor and prevents the preserve from becoming flat or overly sweet. Everything is then blended together with a hand mixer. The mixture changes texture before your eyes. At first rough and fibrous, then gradually breaking down into a silky, golden-orange puree. The fragrance intensifies as well, a concentrated burst of citrus that's far richer than fresh fruit alone, because now peel, pulp, and juice have been combined into one. This puree is poured back into a pot and set over gentle heat. Slowly, it is brought to a boil and then left to simmer for around 15 minutes. During this time, the excess liquid evaporates and the natural pectins in the peel begin to work. Pectin is the same gelling agent that makes jam set, and citrus peel is particularly rich in it. This means that without adding anything artificial, the mixture naturally thickens into a preserve-like consistency. To enrich the texture, 20 grams of butter are stirred in as it simmers. Butter is unusual in fruit preserves, but here it provides a silky body and a soft sheen, almost like turning jam into a dessert sauce. Finally, a teaspoon of cinnamon is added. This spice has long been paired with citrus in both European and Asian traditions, where its warm, woody notes complement the brightness of the fruit. In this mixture, the cinnamon gives depth and complexity, making the flavor far more layered than fruit and sugar alone. As the pot bubbles gently, the transformation is complete. What began as bitter, discarded peel is now a thick, aromatic preserve. The harshness of raw citrus skin is gone, replaced by a mellow sweetness, subtle spice, and the unmistakable perfume of tangerine. The thick, fragrant puree is still bubbling hot. It must be handled carefully. Poured only into heat-proof glass jars designed to withstand sudden temperature changes. If the jars are pre-warmed, the risk of cracking is reduced. Once filled, the jars are sealed tightly. As they cool, the vacuum that forms naturally preserves the contents without additional chemicals, a technique that has been used in home kitchens for centuries. Properly sealed and kept in a cool, dark place, this preserve can last for several months. But it doesn't need to be stored away. Fresh and warm, it is already a versatile food. Spread across a slice of toasted bread, it behaves like marmalade, with the difference that it's smoother and less bitter. Stirred into thick Greek yogurt, it creates a tangy sweet snack rich in fiber and natural pectin. It can even be spooned warm into small bowls and served as a rustic dessert on its own, somewhere between a compote and a fruit custard. Bakers might fold it into cake batters, while chefs might glaze roasted poultry with it, pairing the citrus and spice with savory flavors. The beauty of this recipe is in the transformation. What began as citrus peel, something most people discard without a second thought, is turned into a preserve full of flavor, nutrition, and possibilities. It's both a lesson in reducing waste and in recognizing the hidden value of ingredients we often overlook. With a bit of patience and care, scraps become delicacies. Would you try making this at home? All right, my friends. Forget those supermarket cubes packed with chemicals. I'm going to show you how to make your own. Easy to prep, and they'll last for months in the freezer. 3 carrots. Chop them into rough chunks. Sweet, crunchy, and full of color, this is the base of flavor. 1 leek. Trim off the dry green top and the root. Split it lengthways and rinse. Leeks hide dirt inside. Chop into chunks. Gentle onion flavor, soft and sweet, perfect for stock. 2 parsnips. Peel and chop. They bring an earthy, nutty taste to the broth. 2 parsley roots. Quick peel, quick chop, sharp, peppery flavor. 1 onion. Rough chop, no need for perfect cuts. Once it cooks, it softens and sweetens. 2 cloves of garlic. Smash, peel, chop. Once they half a kohlrabi. Peel the tough skin, cube it up. Fresh, mild, like cabbage with a hint of apple. Adds body and gentle sweetness. Next up is half a celeriac. and we're not wasting the leaves either. Now this vegetable looks a bit rough and knobbly on the outside. Not very pretty, but it's full of flavor. Peel away the tough skin, then cut the root into nice, chunky cubes. Don't throw out the green leaves, chop them too. The root gives a deep, earthy taste, while the leaves add a fresh herby kick. Together, they make the broth taste rich, comforting, and really homemade. 1 small turmeric root. Slice it thin. Careful, it stains your fingers and board bright yellow, but that golden color is gorgeous, and it adds gentle warmth. Just a little goes a long way in flavor. A good handful of parsley, rough chop, stalks and all. Big pot on, splash of sunflower oil. That's it. All those colorful chopped veg straight in. "80 grams of salt. Sounds much, but remember, these are stock cubes. This seasons the whole batch. Let it fry gently. Hear the sizzle, smell the garlic, onion, and juices coming out. Lid on, let the veg steam and soften for about 8 minutes. Not boiling, just gentle cooking. Keeps the flavor rich. Now transfer the cooked vegetables into a large bowl. You can do this while they're still warm. It actually blends more easily that way. Out comes the blender, and we puree everything until it's smooth and thick. Just look at that color. Golden from the turmeric, little green flecks of parsley, and the smell is already amazing. Now spread the puree onto a flat tray. Aim for about 1 to 2 centimeters thick. Not too thin and not too thick. Take a spoon or spatula and smooth it out nicely. This way it freezes evenly, and later on, the cubes will be easy to cut. Cover the tray with cling film and let it cool down completely at room temperature. Once it's cooled, place it in the freezer, ideally overnight, so it becomes solid before cutting. The next day, take out the frozen block and slice it carefully into neat little cubes. Each one is packed with pure flavor, ready to bring any dish to life. Now wrap every cube in aluminum foil. It's a simple old-school trick, but it keeps them fresh, locks in all that goodness, and makes them super easy to grab whenever you're cooking. Packed up like this, every little cube will stay fresh in your freezer for months and months, waiting until you need it. Whenever you're cooking, a soup, a stew, a quick sauce, just take one out and drop it into hot water. No stirring, no effort, it melts away all on its own. And look at that. In seconds, you've got beautiful, homemade broth. Rich, golden, and full of flavor. Pure, simple, natural. Ready whenever you are.